What's up, Gould Miners? Today we welcome Jason Peterson to the show, an ex-convict who spent 8 years in prison before getting out and completely turning his life around. Over the last 6 years, Jason has gone from literally zero credit, zero anything to his name, to now having 7 investment properties that he's done primarily using the BRRRR methodology. And in today's video, he dives deep into how he overcame that 8-year prison sentence and became a successful real estate investor. Later on in the episode, he describes the power of intention and discipline that has kept him on this path. And finally, Jason shares some amazing perspectives with us that everyone can learn from. And these perspectives have kept him on track despite all of the limiting beliefs and the fears that not just Jason, but everyone naturally feels. This is some really inspirational stuff, everyone. Whether you are a brand new investor, super seasoned, whatever, you have something to learn from Jason. So many nuggets being dropped in this episode. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Jason Peterson. Jason, welcome to the Gould Mine.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, dude. You have had anything but a conventional journey. You know, you spent some time in prison and you went from that to now successful real estate investor. Well, walk me through that journey, man. I want to hear it all because it's not typical.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not typical, and it is a journey to say the least. But so basically, my background was misled youth. Didn't have a strong male role model to aspire to be like. Got into a lot of trouble. I was raised better, knew better, but I tested my boundaries and pretty much went on a downward spiral. Got out of control. I tried to reel it in. I joined the Marine Corps. Couldn't get rid of some of my old habits and behaviors and came home on leave and got subsequently discharged from the Marine Corps and then hit rock bottom and ended up doing 8 years in Wisconsin State Prison for crimes that I take full responsibility for. The punishment was well deserved. And to tell you the truth, it changed my life for the better. A lot of times people are so distracted by everyday life, they don't get the chance to self-reflect on mistakes they've made and decisions they're currently making, places in their life that they're lacking discipline. And I really consider it a fortunate event that I was gifted the 8 years to self-reflect. So that's what I did. And when I came out, I was on a mission to make up for lost time. And with the help of a very supportive family, I landed at home and got in touch with my cousin, who was, unbeknownst to me, how successful he was, but he was a successful real estate investor. And he put me on to, drum roll please, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, I read it, and what does everyone say about it? Their mind is blown. And it is exactly what happened to me, and I could not get my credit established fast enough to start buying assets.
How, and actually, we'll come back to this, but it's a good segue. How does one establish credit or reestablish credit when they've been removed from, effectively society for like 8 years? How did you go about doing that? Because I imagine it was like, I was actually thinking about this as I was prepping for this interview. I was like, how do you do that? So like, what was that like?
As much as I wish that it could happen super quickly, a lot of people have asked me that, especially if they have poorer credit. It's one of those things that just takes time and patience, but I had 0 established credit. So basically I didn't even have a credit score. So the first thing I did was go to my credit union. And you got to remember, like, I gave away willingly 8 years of my life, and that included a lot of advancements in technology. So I didn't know how to operate a smartphone. I mean, you could probably tell by what I'm using now, I'm still behind the times. I'm up in the North Woods of Wisconsin. I got a big winter beard, and I could barely get this computer fired up to start this podcast. But so what I did is I was behind the times, but I would get a paper check from my job that I continued to keep after I was on work release my last year of prison. I kept that job. I would get a paper check every Friday. I would walk it to the credit union, cash it. And, after about, I want to say 6 to 8 weeks of this, they saw, you have steady employment. They gave me a $500 limit credit card, and I used it. I used it for gas. I used it for, groceries, things that I could pay off when the bill cycle hit. And I did that. And after 6 months, lo and behold, I started to get a credit score. It wasn't great, and then 6 months later, after all of these successive payments being on time, my credit was established. I was ready to roll at least for FHA standards. So that's really what you do. I know I'm not an expert on credit in the least. There's so many different, intricacies to it. I've been told, open up 3 credit cards, do it, pay one off, keep 2 open. See, the problem with that is I had 0 established credit, so I barely could find one place that would give me a credit card. So that was just my experience. There's probably better ways to do it. Explore it, because it will save you quite a bit. Once you do finance a house, you will be able to have a better rate.
Was that so you going back to that deal, you said you bought your first house FHA after, establishing that credit. Was that the first investment property then or property, I should say, that you bought after coming out of a jail?
Yeah. And actually it was the biggest purchase I've probably ever made in my life. More than a $500 Honda Accord that I bought, to drive around to my job and back once I, got released. So yeah. And to say that, it was a big purchase. I mean, it was intimidating for me, but at the time it was a monster home run of a deal. It was a for sale by owner, and I got it out. I think it was $97,000, and the first appraisal came back at $165,000. So
wow.
Yeah, as soon as I, signed the deal, I was, pretty much walking into money. So I had a lot of options to go from there, and I used all of those options with cash out refinances and home equity lines of credit. And I'm not afraid of debt. Let's just say that, for someone with no established credit, and then the gurus will scare you, don't get into debt. The worst thing you can do. I won't mention the name, but I think we all know who I'm talking about.
We all know. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I agree with some of his, his, I don't know, advices, but I'm not afraid of debt, and using debt, I've gotten to be, the reason I couldn't get set up fast enough here today is because I've just moved into another primary residence. I can't believe it. It's a dream house. It's on an acre of land. I had deer running through my backyard yesterday, and it's really all come full circle. Very crazy to be where I'm at today.
That's amazing, man. Well, congratulations to you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And how long has it been now, Jason? Because you just got this house. How long has it been since you got out?
It's been 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah, 6 years, and I'm still on probation. So if anybody in this audience thinks that, they're waiting for a perfect time, or, the cards are stacked against them, I've done all of this on probation and parole. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse for anybody, if you're just making excuses out of fear, don't do it. I mean, if anyone can do it, I am never the smartest guy in the room. I'm never the most conventional guy in the room. I mean, I have full sleeve tattoos. I have a Wisconsin annoying accent, but I rub shoulders with, people I wanted to tell you and give you enough credit. I enjoy having conversations with somebody as successful as yourself. I mean, look at what this has springboarded for me. I'm talking to a guy that invests in hotels. If you would have told me that 7 years ago when I was banged up in a prison cell, that I would be having conversations with people across the country that are wildly successful. I mean, you, in the guests you've had, I'm honored to be here on your podcast. And 7 years ago, I couldn't have even prayed or put this in a intention journal. I don't even think I would have believed it myself. So I'm honored to be here, and there's no excuses for anybody. So yeah, it's been 6 years, and in a twist of fate, I've had 2 children since then. So I've kind of been slowing down on very active investing because I have a daughter that's under 1 and my son just turned 3. So I'm pretty busy. Plus I manage all my properties myself. And I moved twice, but I mean, real estate has opened up a dream life for me. And I hate to keep going back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I think that should be mandatory reading in high schools. I really think it should, along with the book report to make sure that it's comprehended. And even during COVID, I had a good relationship with somebody in the Wisconsin Department of Correction. He ended up retiring. So the whole COVID thing kind of, what would I say in Wisconsin terms, put a kibosh on that. So he retired, and during COVID, they weren't really having any outside visitors. There was lockdowns in the prisons, but I had a relationship and I had a whole program set up where I wanted to come in to have kind of like a financial literacy class for guys that were be released, because I feel, like I said, I am definitely not the smartest person in the room. And I really feel that anybody can learn this and make a better life for themselves and for their family.
There's a lot to unpack there. I want to start with the obvious one, to me at least, which is, you have reached a certain level of success. You're still very humble. What keeps you grounded, Jason, and how do you think that has impacted your real estate investing career up until this point?
I mean, I have to be true to myself. Either you be humble or you get humbled. I mean, I think that the eight years that I did in prison kind of paved the way for me to know where I came from. You never get too big for your britches, never get too far in front of your skis, because at any point, things can change, circumstances can change. And I'm so grateful for everything I have, that I know that sometimes it's like you got to pinch me, because I feel as if it's a dream. That I'm so lucky. And I think what keeps me grounded is doing a gratitude exercise every morning. And what's funny about that is, about a week ago, I don't know if I just got done telling you how we moved here, but I was unpacking some boxes, and I found one of my previous, it's like an intention journal kind of thing, that I used to have a morning routine where I'd wake up and write the things I'm grateful for, what I wanted, goals, kind of like an affirmation type of thing, but just putting pen to paper, not waking up, looking at my cell phone, checking social media. This is more of a time for me. It takes 5 minutes. I really encourage everybody to do it. But the funny thing is after unpacking these boxes after I moved, I found one probably from about 3 years ago. So, I probably had 3 or 4 properties at the time and was still house hacking. And I looked at the intention journal, and lo and behold, everything that I wanted, usually I would write things that I, envisioned for myself about 2 years out, kind of like a vivid vision type thing. And I almost get goosebumps thinking about this, but I asked for 10 grand a month, just income of 10 grand a month. I wanted a single family house with land for my family. I wanted my blue belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I wanted it didn't really cease for me. I mean, I wanted over 100K in income, either earned or passive. And it's crazy because I have slowly been ticking these things off the boxes without even realizing it. I have my blue belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I have a single family house with land. I have 10K a month every month in income. It's just, hey, where do I go from here? I mean, these goals are attainable. You just have to believe them.
That's the juxtaposition between believing that you can do it and the anxieties and the fears surrounding the activities that are required to do, that are required to unlock the things that you want. But let's dive into that real quick, because you mentioned, the fears and the anxieties before, and then you also talk about the belief system and how your intentions really, or like the power of intention really drove your real estate investing game forward. Those are two very clashing kind of like emotional trains of thought and everything. So how do you overcome the anxieties, the fears, like, especially when you're starting something so new, you were fresh, and really hadn't interacted with society in 8 years. And yet you somehow managed to fight through all of those limiting beliefs, that everyone faces, and break through that. So how did you do that?
I think that was the power of, painting myself into a corner. Once you're under contract, you have to just tell yourself you're going to deal with it. And the anxieties come up. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, I didn't worry about anything. I'll take care of it. Yeah. I'm not afraid. No, there were sleepless nights. There were a lot of things that the unforeseen I would worry about. But at the same time, I think my background kind of was a strength for me, because I've been in deplorable conditions. So if I lost everything, I'm still winning, because I have my freedom, and most likely I have a bathroom with a door on it. No matter what happens, I could work at Walmart as a greeter and probably make enough money to get a 1-bedroom place with a bathroom and a door on it. So it was almost like I had nothing to lose. And that type of person is a scary individual. One that has nothing to lose will take those risks that others won't. But with real estate, there are insurance policies for every risk you take. There's exit plans. And if you're smart and you do your due diligence and, you take time to learn this stuff, I didn't just read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and just willy-nilly I'm going to, buy a house. I did. There were hours and hours, and just any chance I got, I was soaking up real estate information. I probably listened to every single Bigger Pockets podcast up to the point where I bought that first property. And I don't want to, cuss on your show, but I was scared shitless.
Yeah, you can say it, bro. Like this is a
all right.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I was scared shitless though. I really was. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, I had a small sum of money that I had saved, and I spent it all in order to make the down payment on that first property. And from that point on, I was flying by the seat of my pants with home equity lines of credit and cash out refinances. And it seemed overwhelming when I would see, the amount of debt that I had accumulated. It scared me. But if you're not afraid of something big you're doing in life, then it's probably not big enough for you. I think fear is a sign you're moving in the right direction. If you're not afraid by it, it's too small. I mean, all the biggest risks with the biggest payoffs in life, you have to have some kind of fear that is associated with that. I don't care who you are. That's almost a universal law and one that I follow. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment, the Marine Corps, and I just live in a state of fear all the time. It's just one thing I do. And
first of all, I love that mentality. Fear is a sign that you're moving in the right direction. Obviously, there's the devil's advocates that's, could come up with an example or two where that might not be the case, but generally speaking, I would agree with you. I think that given all of the successes and failures that I've had in my career, that fear has always played a role in helping me either push forward or, learn from mistakes that eventually push me forward. Right. So it's a very interesting idea. I want to come back to this, like, I had nothing to lose. What a powerful perspective, right? Because I think that this is something that most investors, people who are listening to this show, they don't have that context. They don't really have the context of being locked up in a cell for 8 years and always having the ability to kind of come back to that and being like, at least I won't. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Definitely. Well, and I think too, also along with, the 8 years that I did, that I had self-reflection, I had very strong belief in myself. I might not know where I'm going, but I know how I'm going to get there. And that was profound for me, that I might not know my final destination, but I know that I have within me the tools to make it happen. If I don't know, I will find a way. I will find out. That's why I still self-manage my properties. I like the challenges. I could pay property management to do it for me. Maybe I'm half being too frugal and I like, cash flowing as much as possible. Or maybe, which I more lean towards this side, is that I kind of like solving the problems that my tenants have. And I like interacting with my tenants. I really do. I like to be the person that, like I said, when we first started, I got this big winter beard here, and we just had, negative 30 degree with the wind chill temperatures up here in Milwaukee. And I care for my tenants. I care for their safety. I am the one that they depend on if their furnace goes out and it's negative 30 below zero, and I like that. I like being that person because I know that they're in good hands with me. And I can't say that for a lot of other landlords in Milwaukee and Racine, Wisconsin, and probably all over the country. I mean, there's slumlords everywhere and they give good landlords a bad name. And it's unfortunate because 9 times out of the 10, the tenants that are renting, they're giving the majority of their income to you as their landlord. And you are thereby paying your mortgage and increasing your net worth with appreciation and, all the benefits that real estate provides. And you have a responsibility there. And like I said, I might not know where I'm going, but I know how I will get there. And same thing with, just your core beliefs and sense of self.
I feel like it's rare. I might be totally off base here, Jason, but I feel like it's rare for someone to have gone through what you went through early in life and come out with that sure belief. Usually that sort of confidence is saved for the people that kind of live this like fairy tale, almost like childhood existence. So like what would you attribute to that self-belief? Because, I also have that same, like, I know where I'm going to make it, I know it's happening. And I wake up every morning with that sure belief. It's interesting to hear someone from, that had a different life experience also have that same belief. So what do you think it is?
It's discipline. It's that core belief in it's keeping promises to yourself. And that's who you need to make that promise to first and foremost. Do not break promises to yourself. Your core belief and the discipline that you wake up with every single day. Don't fail yourself. If you don't fail yourself, then every single day you are going to have more confidence. You're going to believe in things that used to seem, preposterous that you could pull this off. I think I almost had an advantage with just the structure of not only the Marine Corps, but also with being in prison. I mean, the regimen of working out every day being, the better version of yourself than you were the day before. And then when I got released, that just compounded a million times over because I had access to all the learning materials I could have. The internet to me was a playground of knowledge. I mean, we live in an age now where you can learn anything at the drop of a hat. And I took full advantage of that. And I think, if you're not learning, you're dying. And that is what kind of shaped my core belief. And like you said, we know we have that belief in ourselves that we will get to our destination. Might not know how, but we know that we will get there by our self-belief. And the more knowledge I've, obtained, you can find me on a given Saturday night when the kids are sleeping. I will be learning about the French Revolution because an article piqued my interest. And then an hour and a half later, I'm done reading an article and I'm an expert now. But yeah, I really think it comes back to staying hungry to learn new things and then incorporating that into yourself and building confidence with that. But yeah, it comes down to not breaking promises to yourself.
Something just struck me right now as you were saying that. And it's interesting that, when you left society and then when you re-entered, there was an 8-year gap. Obviously, like the technology, like everything changed, right? Like things have evolved so aggressively over the last 2 decades. And it seems like every year that goes by, it's really like a decade's worth of innovation and change and information that's now out there into the ecosystem. And so isn't it interesting how you come in with this super fresh perspective of look at all of this opportunity and look at all this knowledge that's available to me. And there's so many people that just are living and just completely turning a blind eye to all the opportunity that's in front of them.
100% agree with you. And to actually hearken back to, 6 years ago, I almost wish that I didn't get so absorbed with the technology and I could go back to that moment in time because I had very few distractions. Now, man, I swear it is a battle to avoid the distractions that I'm plagued with. I mean, it's a great marketing scheme. I mean, these people are good. I mean, I'll get caught on Instagram. I'm no better than the next guy. I mean, there are so many distractions, but I was such a caveman, 6 years ago. I would sit at dinners with people and I'm like, all you're doing is playing with your phone. We're not even engaging here. And now I'm that guy that, I get wrapped up in my phone. I open Pandora's box and, that's the thing. Once you have, for me, I notice that I have to be more cognizant of it when my kids are around because they don't know, if I'm reading about doing a 1031 tax exchange or if I'm looking at scaring cat videos on YouTube. They just see me on my phone. So, even though that knowledge is there, I almost wish I could go back 6 years ago and be the caveman again because, like you said, I mean, people don't even realize the power and the potential they have at their fingertips. And I mean, they're caught up in, it's almost like hypnosis. They're hypnotized by the fast dopamine hits, the videos that make them laugh, and they're not using the technology that you and I and everyone else has access to and could better their life and ensure financial freedom for their families, but they're distracted. And it's sad. It's sad. I'm a victim. I think that I've actually wrote this in my intention journal in the morning. Do not be distracted today. Stay focused and just make it through and try to learn something new. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. People do not realize they're walking blindly through.
Switching gears a little bit because we've spent a lot of time on some of this stuff, but I want to get to like the meaty stuff, like how did you, like, what are you doing right now to source deals? Let's start there. Like, and I know that you said that you're kind of like, maybe taking a little bit of your foot off of the gas on the investing stuff, but back, as you were kind of building the portfolio, as you were gaining momentum and everything, how were you sourcing these deals? You said the first one was a FSBO, right? So yep. were you doing a lot of FSBOs? Like, kind of walk me through what the deal sourcing looked like.
I am known for everybody that is in my network. If they see a for sale by owner sign, they snap a picture and send it to me. And
nice.
I don't pay them, or the house that I'm in right now was actually a for sale by owner. So, but other deals I yanked right off the MLS. I mean, I started in kind of a golden era of investing, during COVID and right before COVID. I had probably 4 deals from MLS, and I just recently bought one in May, single family. That was right from MLS too. It's not a cash flow monster because, the rate was, I do finance all my deals too, because why not? Is kind of my mantra there is why not? And so I pulled them off MLS with a very good realtor down in Racine, Wisconsin. It's a little town, not really a little town, but it's between Chicago and Milwaukee. It's just south of Milwaukee. You can find a lot of good deals there. I have a really good realtor, Colette. She sends me deals all the time. She knows what I'm looking for. But otherwise, it's really just, I put myself out there, and I think my superpower would probably be my communication skills. I can talk this with a 90-year-old woman at the church. I could talk to them about, the house that their son is selling, and I can talk to, you know, realtors in the area and see what kind of deals they have. But it's a lot of word of mouth. And, you know, I drive for dollars. It's crazy. I notice things, you know, once you have that lens switched on, you kind of see things, you know, the house with the long grass that hasn't been cut in a while, you know. But yeah, I've been just collecting slowly, you know. I think it comes with the scaling will come when it's time. You know, I prioritize my family life. I never want to look back 30 years from now and say, man, I wish I spent more time with my kids when they were small. You know, yeah. I've heard enough anecdotes and, you know, advice from the older generation that tell me, you know, working is good and fine and all, but spending all day, every day outside of the home and missing your children growing up, you'll never get that back. So as much as I love, if it were up to me, I would be buying deal after deal after deal after deal. Yeah. However, I know what's best, and I don't want to take on too much where I'm going to regret it later. So yeah. I'm slowly stacking them. And when the time comes to scale, like I said, I don't know where I'm going, but I know how I'm going to get there. So got
Love the
core belief, you know, and the time will come when when it presents itself.
I love it. I love it. I love it a lot. If you had to look back on your investing career up until this point, what would you say the most important decision that you made that led to this success? So if you had to attribute it back to like one key decision, what was the most important decision that you've made?
I don't want to keep going back to this, but saying, you know, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad was probably, you know, very, very influential for me. I'd never had my mind expanded on that type of level. You know, what's funny is my cousin that introduced me to that book, he said that he has tried that with other cousins, you know, younger cousins of mine and, you know, just close friends of his. And he said, you know, 9 out of 10 people, he'll give them a copy of the book and, you know, check in with them 2 weeks later and, hey, how was that book? None of them read it. None of them read it. And
yeah. I believe it.
You know, I wish that people would just give it a chance and, you know, even if they're not big readers, just have a goal and read that book. So I think that was one of the most influential moments of my real estate career, but also, buying that first for sale by owner and just having no fear and diving in because, like I said, I bought my biggest purchase prior to that was a $500 Honda Accord, and buying a house was a whole different animal, you know, and once you've signed, you know, how many offers and, you know, and you're at title and you're signing, you know, 49 different pieces of paper in front of you. The first time, I was probably entitled for about 3.5 hours because I needed to know, what does this mean that I'm signing? You know, I'm so scared. And now, you know, I'm probably out of there within like 25 minutes. I sign the papers, just sign it and move. But yeah, getting over the fear of the first one. After the first one, they all get easier. So dive in. Dive in. When you got nothing.
I love that.
Got to dive in.
I love it, man. You know, fear is a sign that you're moving in the right direction. I'm going to remember that one for a long time. So we're coming up here on time, Jason. I want to be respectful, get you out of here on time. A couple last questions here. So what is a common misconception or like a myth surrounding the real estate game that you'd like to debunk right here and right now?
that you have to be a certain type of person to invest in real estate. And that's a myth. This is open to anybody. Like I said at the start of this podcast, I'm still on parole and probation, and I've had 8 properties in my possession. I sold 1, own 7 now. I live in a very nice neighborhood. I have sleeve tattoos. I cuss. I talk dirty. And real estate, there's no barriers to entry. It's just knowledge and the courage to believe in yourself that you can handle problems. You need to be a problem solver. But with enough education, anyone can do this. Like I said, I am never the smartest person in the room. I just know that I will not fail myself when it comes to solving a problem. I will find the answer. And I have one funny story. I'll keep it brief, but the house that I just moved out of, that was our primary, in a little twist of fate, I had a showing for new tenants to move in there, and I could not believe this, and I can't make this stuff up, but the people that toured the house in order to be my new tenants were 3 correctional officers that were going to be roommates and rent from me. So, I mean, that's not the craziest turn of events. I can't make this up. I mean, 3 correctional officers were going to pay me to rent my house. So that's a myth. You know, if that's not a myth that I can't be a real estate investor, I mean, anyone can do it. So pretty funny little turn of events there.
That is funny, man. That's a great story. And I definitely think kind of more than anything, that what that story reminds me of is this idea that no matter where you're at right now, you know, if you work hard, if you set intention and you don't let fear get in the way, you can completely turn the tables in a short amount of time. And it might feel like a grind in the meantime, but like you did it. And that's a powerful testament to that, man. So thank you for sharing. And in traditional Gould Mine fashion, Jason, we're going to have you leave the audience with one final gold nugget.
Wisdom is precious because it's so costly. That's pretty much the best quote I've heard in a long time, and it rang true. I felt it with all my being. The wisdom that I have gained in this process cost me a lot, cost me a lot of self-reflection. It cost a lot of, sleepless nights when I had to remember the horrible things I did in my past, but you have to move past that trauma, and you have to, know that there's a better path for you and there's light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully you use that for good and you can make a difference in many people's lives. So yeah, wisdom is precious because it's so costly. So that's a gold nugget.
That is awesome, man. And what an inspiration you are, my friend. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story with this audience. And guys, Jason did it. Go out there and do it yourselves. Come on. This is inspirational stuff, baby. I love it. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, my friend.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.